In this video help, we're going to be looking at the project specifications popover. And in that, we're going to have a chance to look at both of these, the project specification and the specification portal. As with the scheduling and some of the other popovers up here, what we're starting out to do in this project specification is to identify the project, the actual spec number that you're going to be working with, the project spec name, the start date of the spec when it was first required, the date it was actually finished, the project manager for that particular spec, and then the project spec type. Over here, the spec level is at the top level or end item, major assembly, assembly, subassembly, and what happens is it'll actually put the 03 and the level of what this is up there on the top. This can be edited so you can go ahead and modify it to fit your exact needs based on the way your company performs their tasks. Then this project spec description, the person that's generating the spec should put a narrative in here that describes what that spec is supposed to do. What is the mission of it? What is the tasks that are going to be covered in this? Now we're not, if you'll notice, we're not putting in the task level description and the schedule in this particular screen. We're basically looking at what this spec is supposed to do for the level that it's working on. And of course, we do have additional records down here where you can add a different spec or elaborate on the spec that you're doing if you want to break it into parts. And that's where we're at. So you can, as soon as you create a new piece of information in here, it'll add one more additional record below this. You can see where I bring it up and it kind of stopped and froze there. Well, each time you create a new record, the portal record for this actual screen will have another record in it. And if you come up and click on the portal, you'll see basically this screen, but only the one record. So if you're going to search for a group of records based on maybe the spec level or the spec ID or the project or a combination of any of this information to include manager and so forth. And you can even search in this field down here to find specific keywords or phrases where they are occurring in that particular spec. And how do we do that? We go over back to this screen over here while we're sitting in here. We would go to the portal from that screen, and in that portal we would do the find using the do action button where you actually do a start search, perform the search, and then actually when you get done using the information, make sure you go back and say show all records to bring the records back. Some people may be befuddled if they go to look at a list view and find only your search in there with certain records that are the current records in selection. So you just pop over to the do action, click show all, and it would return all the records back to the list views and the other records that you're looking at. That's a little overhead stuff. Okay, now let's adjust our thinking and go into the specification portal. The specification portal is where you're really doing the bulk of the work. And in this particular case, the portal itself has a spec overview. And that could be just a short narrative that explains what you're trying to do as far as accomplishing the goal in this spec. If you have any other organizations, outside services or vendors, it's a good idea to announce that in here as the reference may be going to them for the spec to build something. If it's within your own company, then indicate that it's solely the property of the company that you're in and you're going to be providing that information, and it's basically for your own consumption. The spec body. The spec body is basically the narrative that you're going to be using that explains the actual spec. In other words, you put in the information that is going to be used by the other people in your company or vendors that may be doing work for you. And you put all that narrative in here. If you want to embellish it, you can go out and do that as far as creating a document and calling it the spec, and then put it in a PDF format and then drop it back into this record. So you can insert the file or whatever. Now if you insert it here, if you go to the portal, before I leave this, let's go ahead and put down here, outside vendors and information. This is where you're actually putting a timeline as far as this particular spec is concerned, where you're going to be naming the company, when they're starting their work, and what the outcome and deliverables should be for that particular item in the spec. Now, there's many things that we're putting information in to cover ourselves, no matter where we're at. And you have to understand that if you're a person that's reviewing this application and you're a project manager, you may be a little different than one of the techs that's in there that has to understand the spec. He would probably go right to the spec or spec portal to find information. So we're repeating some of the information that we've already covered in the fields up above here, but you don't want to have to chase all over through the application to find something. So we're looking at outside vendors, and this is strictly for people doing work that if it's involved and it's shown in the overview, then it should be down here more specifically. And what we're talking about in the actual, when we're going to go to the portal, this record here, you can insert it from here, but if you want to read that particular document, you go to the portal, and down here in the portal where it's shown, you can get down toward the bottom, then you can pick it up and show it in here like we did before. And I'll try to show this as much as I can. You can see that it has references, and it is the document, and if I scroll through it, I can read the entire document. So this is an excellent way to keep your specs in the actual screen and be able to access them when you're online, or if you're, say, like on an iPad or iPhone, and you're in the field and you need to look up something, or maybe you're visiting a vendor and you're in a meeting and you want to cite the spec exactly with the right words in it. Okay, so we're in the portal record. So in here is where the do action button would be used that we talked about. Start the search, and then as you put your text in here, and we'll just show you, if you start it, you're going to get little magnifying glasses through all the fields. Pick whatever field it is, including the SP ID, and what that does, that's the spec ID. You can pick it by the numeric number for the spec, or you can do it by the project number, the spec number, the spec name. Any of these items can be used. The only one that can't be used in here is obvious. It's the container, because the container doesn't allow you to search in it. You don't see a magnifying glass there. Okay, let's go back to the main record over here and recoup. What we've done is we've cleaned all this up here and got it to the point where we now are doing specifications. The next thing we need to do is provide some thinking about, oh, by the way, you notice here, I want to just point this out. I hate to jump around like that, but it's obvious that it should be shown. We're still in the search mode. So what I would do is go over here and say perform the search and just say either modify it or cancel it. I'll say cancel it. Okay, so next thing we're going to be covering is the project drawings. Now, one of the things I'm pointing out in this is we keep it very, very simple. 1, 3, 5, 7. You know, it's like that situation. Make it as simple as possible so anybody can use it and gain what they need to do while they're in here and be able to find things very quickly. That's the whole story behind this application, is simplicity, but yet be very concise as far as all the information that we're putting in here. So next, let's go ahead and copy or go to the project drawings thing in our next video. Thank you.